So I think energy, when I tell people I work with people with positive energy, they think I'm nuts. I said, well, you don't have to like what I do. You don't have to even understand it. You don't have to understand how electricity works to use it in a positive way, like light your home, or a negative way that could harm someone.
Sure.
So you don't have to know how it works. It just does. You don't have to know how Newton's or physics laws work, but they do, or gravity. It works.
Hello and welcome to Pathways. I am your host, Amber Stitt. And today we welcome John Morley to the show today. Welcome, John.
Amber, it's a privilege, pleasure, and honor to be with you. I know we've had some challenges between myself and yourself and holidays, and it's great to finally get this booking to actually happen.
So you are not only a voice of radio, podcasting, coaching, you do a lot in that arena. And I know you have a couple things going on most recently, and you are a radio host and you have something that's new for you that I'd like to talk about. So let's just let the audience know a little bit about you if they haven't found you yet.
Sure. If you don't know who I am by now, my name is John C. Morley. I am a serial entrepreneur. And what I like to tell people about me, and this is pretty easy to figure out, everyone, is that I am a podcast host and also a coach. And I help businesses share their story so they can scale and become more profitable. Now, I typically work with companies that bring in 10 million or more, but not so much about that. The most important thing to me is truth, Amber. That is the most important thing. I've been a member of International Press now 7 years and 3 months this past October. And the reason I bring that up is there's a lot of people in the media. That doesn't make me better than anybody. But what makes me interesting is that I'm about truth. People say to me, hey, John, I want you to put down that we're the best. Okay. Who says you're the best? Well, my boyfriend, my sister, my girlfriend, my cousin. I was like, okay, where else? I don't know. I'm sure there's something, any customers, any clients. I don't know. I'm sure some of them. Well, do we have something we can go on? Well, not really. I can't do that then. Oh, I get it. You're one of these people who has to get paid. What do you want? An extra 500, an extra 1,000? And he was insulting me going through all the numbers. And every time he said the numbers, I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. He's like, you're crazy. How much do you want? What are you looking for? Like $1 million? No, you don't get it. There's no amount of money that you could ever pay me to put down something that's that's not the truth. Oh, you're a whack job. No. I'm about the truth. I'm about integrity. Did you read my bio? believemeachieve.com. When we believe in ourselves, other people believe in us, but also we create. And what a lot of people don't realize is that there's energy in our world. Even you and I in this cast, we are sharing energy. It's a little different than when you share energy in person because there's about a 2 to 3 foot length where our waves, if I showed you a picture, actually affect other people. So when I project out, it has a stronger than remotely, but with practice, you can do that as well. So I think the most important thing with me is creating content that's about truth. And there are people say to me, John, just do what we say. I'm like, I don't think we're a match.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you your check back and I'm going to recommend you go somewhere else. Oh, no, why? Like, I can't work with you. You're telling me how to operate. And you're also telling me that I need to say what you want to say. You want to be a stand-up guy. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to tell people the truth. Why do I tell people the truth? From taking Dale Carnegie many times, you strive to become genuinely interested in the other person. I'm boring, Amber. Nobody cares about me. I care about you.
You don't seem boring.
So you're more important. I'm not. So when we have that philosophy, we strive to become genuinely interested. And when I get a story out about people and it's about interesting things, people want to ask questions. They want to get curious and then they want to learn about their business. I tell people this every day. You know why I don't get banned on social media? And I post over 18 different things a day, all in formats. I never sell. I never sell.
I see.
I educate.
You have a strong belief in manifesting. And so with this client that may be fired, if they're not speaking the truth, until you can physically see that they've manifested the honest, the integrity.
I think it comes down to two things. When I said to you, I work with certain clients, and I work with clients that either know their truth or they want me to find their truth. Now, it's
They're
okay.
Open-minded. Yeah.
You have a truth and you want me to go with it. I'm like, I'm going to research it and make sure it's viable. Because you may not know. You might have just grabbed it from some, foreign virus somewhere. But I want to make sure that what you give me or what I give you is rooted in truth. Yeah. And if it's rooted in truth, people are going to get curious. They're going to share it. They're going to want to have a conversation with you. And when people get curious about anything, they're going to learn more. And then they might decide that, wait a minute, I actually need this person. I actually need this solution. I always say to people, my tech company, I don't sell them anything. I said, well, I'm sure you don't care about the fact that ransomware is going to attack many people in the world and spyware. And it's not a question of when it will attack, okay? But if you're not protected, because I know it's going to attack you if you're not properly protected. And so they say to me, well, well, what's it going to cost? Well, I just want to ask you a question. Are you vested in solving the problem so you don't have ransomware and malware in your company? I don't know. Well, if you don't know, then we probably should just say goodbye.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, there's no sense of wasting your time, my time, because it's clear you don't want to fix anything. So if you want to fix something, reach out to me. It's no harm, no foul. And people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm not selling. That's what I'm doing. I'm educating.
Let's hang out there for a minute.
Okay.
Your approach seems different than what's trending out there in the world of media. Do you want to pick up a little bit on some of the current events that...
Sure, I'll be happy to. So
this is kind of an interesting tidbit, and it's just, are we spending money with unethical platforms?
Yeah, I think that's the question. So let's take a look at the people that changed their name, right? Facebook. Now, we know them Facebook. We still know them as Facebook, but they're actually called Meta now. I mean, did they actually think that changing their name was going to build their reputation? I hope not, because it doesn't change your reputation. If you have a duck, right? And I go and put a cap on the duck, or I put a jacket on the duck, it's still a duck, right?
I wonder where you figured out duck, like, do you have ducks at your house?
No. It came to me.
Okay.
A lot of things just come to me. But there's a reason why I chose duck, and I'll tell you that in a minute.
Okay.
So speaking of Facebook and Meta and Google and another company called DuckDuckGo, well, the thing that got me with Facebook is that, so I don't know if you guys know, but because of Facebook's inability to act, several kids got hurt, harmed physically, mentally, and some of them died committing suicide. So there was a trial a few weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah.
And the trial with a lot of lawmakers, and of course, the big wigs like, Mr. Zuckerberg, Mark was there, Elon was there, the ByteDance company from TikTok was there. So Mark was at the stand, and the guy said to him, he says, did your company compensate these people for any damages? I don't know if we have. Well, have you apologized to anyone yourself? I don't think so. Well, all these people are here in the audience today at this hearing with pictures of loved ones that they're never going to see again in this lifetime. Do you want to say something to them? Not really. Well, do you want to at least say you're sorry? I mean, all these people are out here. Don't you think you should be saying? So he kind of guilts him into saying sorry. And I got to be honest, it's nice that he's kicking him in the butt to say, I'm sorry. But this is the way he says, I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply sorry for what you and your families and loved ones have gone through. No one should have to go through this. It was a good start. And that's why at Facebook and Meta, we're creating tools to make sure this didn't happen. I'm like, where'd that come from? What should have happened is after he said he was deeply sorry, I said, and I don't know how to put myself in your shoes because I don't know what it's like. And so we screwed up big time. Let me just be honest with you. I don't know how we're going to fix this, but we are going to start doing things, including compensating you for some of the damages and making sure immediately that we start analyzing things so this doesn't happen. That's what he should have done. But he went right on the sales wagon. Google, which we all think is the greatest things in sliced bread, they're not. They just have a big name. And so what happened with Google is, so you ever notice Google gets to the top all the time, like, on your cell phone, on your computer? They're always top when you open your computer. Well, DuckDuckGo, which is what I use for my searches, they don't spy and creep around you and sell your data to other companies. DuckDuckGo doesn't do that. But DuckDuckGo didn't have a lot of money. So they started getting some money, and they started getting known in some of the spaces, and they started to get the cell phone markets to start putting their browsers default. But then they realized that Google was really being unethical. They were paying companies like, let's say, Dell, HP, and a plethora of them to put, in addition to carriers like cell phone carriers, Verizon, T-Mobile, etc., to make sure Google's search engine is a default when they load the computer or their phone.
Yeah.
And that, to me, sends red lights. But what really sends red lights to me is, I think it was just around COVID time, I said, you know what? I'm going to give this Google company a try, and I'm going to just see if they're any better than we are, just because they're supposed to be the best, right? Well, they had an attitude. I found that they weren't even people that worked for Google. They were contractors. They couldn't even spell my city correctly, from Franklin Lakes to Franklin. And then when my campaign wasn't producing, they made tweaks and they had me wasting all my money. And then when I tried to complain to them, they said, well, if you don't want to spend at least $25 a day, we can't work with you.
Yeah. Seems like
and I said, this is wrong.
So what platforms are you using 18 times a day?
So we still post to, I have 3 companies. So we still post to Facebook, no paid stuff. Facebook, LinkedIn, really don't do much of Twitter, some TikTok, Instagram. What else do we do? I think, yeah. And then YouTube. For
Elon, does he have anything with X? Was there anything negative about this that he was in conjunction with this issue?
Well, he wasn't really, they all were responsible, but it was kind of like the fingerprints were more on Mark and on Google. Everybody's responsible for this, right? But they seem to not have their hand, as I call it, stuck or caught in the cookie jar. Google did. And they've had their hands caught in that cookie jar many times. And, Amazon's no innocent saint either. Amazon, if you guys remember iRobot or Roomba, they had the vacuum. I had one years ago. And then when it didn't work so well, I got rid of it. I returned it and I bought a vacuum that didn't capture my data and actually used a camera to start picturing rooms. This was years ago, like over 15 years ago. And so what Amazon want to do, and they're trying to stop the sale from European unions, trying to stop it from going through. Amazon wants to buy this Roomba company because they want to increase their sales by taking the data it learns from your home or business and selling it to security companies and other companies that could use data about your home so they could sell you. That's wrong.
So the Roombas were doing that?
This is where they want to go with the Roombas. They want to take that data now and make Amazon, that's where they're going. That's where they're trying to go. And the European Union is having an issue because of a monopoly, but I think it's more of not just a monopoly. It's a privacy issue. Right? Anytime we get data, I'd rather pay for something than worry about my data being being exploited. Because every time I go to a browser, I don't let it track anything. You go to certain places. You've got to be cognizant of this because it's not the issue of what you're doing. It's what somebody else is doing third party. I mean, look at Clear. Been a Clear customer for several years. So Clear is a service. You go to the airport, they scan your eyes and your boarding pass and you just go around. Well, they had a breach a year or two ago. They had a guy that was it was not the correct age match with the face. And the guy potentially had something dangerous that could have harmed the plane. And they let this guy board. So then TSA came after them. And then you have another company that's now fighting. You got Clear and you got this other company at the airport that's fighting. And so my question is, why would the government give a contract out to 2 companies? So they're now fighting. Well, who's better? Who's better? And this past Christmas, when I went to Florida, they actually, instead of it taking like 2 minutes, it was like 25 minutes. I said, what's going on? Oh, we're upgrading. I said, upgrading what? Well, we're upgrading to make it more secure. I said, well, so you're not hacked again? Is that the reason? Or we're taking a whole picture like of your whole face, not just your eyes. And we're sending a text to your phone to make sure you have a legitimate cell phone. Okay, sounds nice. And then what? No, that's what. And the people who started this company didn't know anything about security, didn't know anything about airports, nothing. Just husband and wife started this company, but they knew nothing about security. Now, nothing about that, but where's the credibility? Like, how can we trust somebody like that?
And that's just in every airport, just like that. So what's your thoughts on LinkedIn doing the verification through Clear? I went to go do it, and then my brain goes, oh, wait, but then LinkedIn has my information.
So yes and no. So I did do it, but what LinkedIn's doing is they're using Clear's third party to verify that you're not in a database.
And that's where I felt like, I think I should do this, but I
did it. It gave me the check mark. It was a good thing. And they deleted the data. It's not like they keep it. They're not keeping it on file. LinkedIn has not, I don't know if you guys know this, but LinkedIn is not the saint that you expect it to be because LinkedIn's owned by Microsoft. Most people don't know that. Microsoft owns LinkedIn.
And I feel that more and more people are using LinkedIn more than ever now.
Yes.
It was about 5 years ago. I'm in financial services. And so there's a lot of compliance. So a lot of people in my industry, if they're licensed for securities, they just can't do a lot. But lately, they're being more flexible. And so there was a point that I went Instagram, YouTube, and so on. But more and more, everyone's, I don't know if it's because it's still more professional, but yeah, LinkedIn just seems, as I talk with other professionals, they're constantly using it now.
So here's a new one I think you're going to be impressed about. So for many years, you remember probably traveling for a long time. You know how we used to go through the metal detectors like you had in the courthouses, the very old fashioned ones, nothing bad. They would have the little stick, they'd warn you, whatever. Not a big deal, not really intrusive. Then they introduced that thing where you're supposed to go in, hold your hands up. So we had a couple of things. Backscatter, which first of all could produce X-ray images like X-rays. So that was one issue. But my big concern wasn't that. It was the whole thing of what's it doing to our bodies.
Oh, sure.
So when I heard about this, I said, I'm not going through this.
Yeah.
And they said, then I learned about male opt-out, female opt-out. It's your right, but they don't tell you. There's no sign that says you may opt out. It is your right to opt out of these stupid scans.
Because you can walk through the one that's more courthousey. That one's
yeah,
okay.
I could walk through that one. That's not that's the one if you do the TSA pre-check, you walk through that.
Yeah.
But so I always get a pat down. I'm getting pat downs for many, many years. And I'm fine with that in a little invasive because I know that my health, that little inconvenience is saving my health. So everywhere you go, they have no badges on them to tell you what kind of radiation, nothing. Well, I still was against it for a while. And there was this new airport they built in New Jersey. You may or may not know about it in New York, Terminal A. It's a $16 billion airport, which I think was a real waste of money. And anyway, they put the latest technology in, and guess what happened? Rapid Scan got thrown out. They lost the bid. So they went with this other company, Roger and Schrug or something. Schweig or something. And they're in Germany, and then they have a U.S. presence. Well, what wound up happening is I was walking through security, getting ready for the pat down, and I saw this wall. I said, what is this? Oh, this is the new, screening system. I said, well, how does it work? Oh, you just walk through the wall. And I'm waiting, and I'm looking in the back, and I'm like, I'm counting all the radiations and the different things. There's 72 guns in this thing that fire at you, M1MW, for 20 seconds. He said, yeah, but it's nothing. It's minimal. So I kept pushing and pushing. Everybody said there's nothing wrong. Well, about 4 weeks ago, I said to myself, I don't believe this. I called Rapid. Rapid lost a contract, so they're happy to open their mouths and tell everybody that, guess what? They said, well, we're not sure how safe it is for humans. We're not saying it's unsafe, but we're not really sure. We might have misstated that because it hasn't been fully tested. Well, I did some studies, and I found a study that was done in Mexico not too long ago. And out of 10,000 people, 9,800 people had damage. And you're probably wondering what kind of damage.
Yes.
So what we found that it does, not to everyone, but to a lot of people, it causes your double-stranded DNA to become unzipped, which in a sense is killing cells. So that means if reproducing, you'll have that same effect. If you had DNA, let's say, that made me a rock star pitcher, and that DNA split, my arm wouldn't have had a pitch anymore. So yeah, I have a problem with that because it's not happening every day, but people might be losing traits in their body and not knowing why they can't do something anymore because their double-stranded DNA was killed.
And this type of technology was in one of the airports?
It's still in there. It's still in there now. M-Wave, the new M-Wave is in there. It's called anything called M-Wave. When you have your hands up or you stand the wall and they shoot beams at you, that's causing damage to your cells.
So this is a big thing for me. There's some other technology that I've been using with some of my health practitioners here in Arizona. And a lot of people think I'm crazy when I'm really monitoring, even for my daughter who's 5, what technology down to radio, TV, tablet in kids' laps. There's some hair science technology that my friend, she's a part of with her practice. And she says there's young kids, 8, 9, 10, coming in with hair loss because of environmental factors. Just funny how if you can't see it, we don't think it exists. But giving spirulina, I was told years ago, to your point, when I'm traveling in the airport, I need to be really taking something that could clean my blood because that stuff just sits in your body. Even after a mammogram, it will just sit inside and slowly go out into your body. And so that's a whole, I know, other topic. We're not scientists, but we can still go gather information. So it's good to know that you can opt out. But that's where with my daughter, I've told her she can't have the tablet. I said, I'll tell her it's not good for your brain and your body. And your doctor says you can only have it so often. And I just tell her why. It's just not good. Just like sugar is bad. We can't have it all the time. But a lot of people eye roll a little bit thinking like she's crazy, but
they all do that. And I think it's because they don't know. And when I start having a conversation with people at the airport, I'm like, you don't really know what you don't know. And it would scare you if I showed you evidence of this. Like they just work there, they're at a job. And it reminds me of the Right to Know Act. They should be told more. I don't think government's doing it on purpose. I think they really just don't know.
There's policy being enacted, but they don't know the why behind it.
Exactly.
So with 18 million listeners on a radio show, do you feel that anyone disagrees with the topics you bring up?
I feel that that's a good point.
You're not going to make everyone happy. My dad's got a little radio show in Nebraska on Saturday mornings, and he's really particular about his opinion, and he's got a following, and then you don't have some of the following. So when it comes to public speaking, I mean, you've been doing it for so long. What do you think are just like the go-tos for each individual to have confidence with their speaking?
So I'm also a Toastmaster.
Mm-hmm.
Done professional speaking. My first talk was actually to Harvard and Yale. I was on a plane. I was talking to somebody and their guy canceled out. And it was a non-paying gig at the time. They just said, we can't pay you anything, but we can give you dinner. I was just happy to use the names. I spoke for Harvard and Yale. And I did the talk, minor and major inconveniences of Y2K. So I just like, whenever I write something, whenever I go to something, I wear my press badge once in a while. And usually it's when I want to get to a story that somebody doesn't want me to cover. Like, oh, I want to go cover this. Well, I have my press badge. There was a story in town that I wanted to cover for some reason. And the previous mayor, not the one that's there now, the one that's there now is a good friend of mine. But the one that was there before, you get some people that they have a little bit uppity, their egos, basically. And so it wouldn't let me do the story. So I called the media, the press, the international press, and I said, hey, guys, I'm trying to do this story, but this gentleman, the mayor's not letting me do it. Well, who is this? I said, is he there with you now? I said, he is. He said, okay. He says, can I talk to him? I said, yeah. He said, okay. No. So I put him over there. I was like, who's this? I said, this is Mike. Mike? Yeah, Mike. Meanwhile, Mike's from the legal department. Yeah, are you mayor? Yes, I am. Okay. Well, is there a problem? No, there's no problem. I understand that Mr. Morley's trying to gather a story about you. No. He's just an idiot. We don't need to give him a story. Well, I beg to differ with you, and I'm about to get an injunction in Bergen County. So I suspect that that's probably going to cause some ramifications in your town. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to reconsider. All right, well, I'll get to it next week. I'll do the interview sometime. Okay, great. Well, I'll just start the injunction. And then when you finish, we'll get it canceled. Well, why are you going to start it? Well, I still got to start the injunction. It's going to take us some time, so I still got to get the papers run. Well, why are you going to do that? Well, if you want to do the interview right now, then I wouldn't have to do that. Yeah, but I'm busy. Well, then I guess I'll file the injunction. He said, let's just get it over with. So we do the interview. But, it's like people don't understand. So I have my press badge and I take it very seriously. And, it doesn't just get you to museums for free, but it gets you to the heart of something. And I think what it really gets you to is the fact that you want to tell the truth. In media before, everything was about money and what attracts readers. And I get that. But if you tell the truth, even though it might not be sexy, it might not be, attractive, it's the truth. And so answering your question about whether people like what I talk about, I say people like me, people love me, people hate me, and I say next. And when people come to that negative time, because I allow them to, I just say, hey, I'm not really interested in hanging with you if you're going to act like that. Give them a warning again. I say, if we do it again, like we're done. What do you mean? Mm-hmm. I'm done. I don't want to hang with you anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, I just don't want to be around this negative energy. I had somebody today who was saying to me in an email, and I said, I know you're a nice person. So I said, but I have a new philosophy in January 2024. So what's that? I said, it's called, the love me, like me, or hate me philosophy. Well, here's the thing. If you're going to support me, great. If you're not, I'm just going to say goodbye. Well, in other words, I only want to be with people that are going to support me. So you're entitled to have your opinion. But if you're going to go against what I'm doing, meaning you're going to go against my cause, that's different than arguing or debating. If you're going to challenge my professionalism or challenge what I'm trying to do, right? Now I have a problem with you because I think free speech is everyone's right. Yeah. No one should be discriminated for race, religion, sexual orientation, creed, color, party, etc. And when you start doing that, that's a problem. So I tell people every day, you have a right to be whatever you want to be in this world as long as it does not discriminate anyone or harm anyone, physically, mentally, or emotionally.
Well, I feel like your statement there, if you, John, are consistently showing up to provide truth and somebody's going to hate on that and not be open-minded that people can have opinions, then yeah, they have to go. And it's got to be okay.
But you got to do it in a nice way.
Yeah.
You got some people, they could be equal to my level. They could be less. They could be more. But people that have a few dollars more think that they have entitlement. And I very politely tell them, I say, I don't care you have a few million more than me. I said, it doesn't matter. I said, in your entitlement, I said, first of all, you're showing your rudeness. And second of all, your attitude is not professional. And just because you can hide behind 10 lawyers doesn't mean you're going to win. So I said, I go for the truth. I go all the way to the top. And if you don't like that, well, too bad. I remember leaving a job, part-time job when I graduated college from a government agency. And the lady said to me, actually, I want to come into her office. I was 2 weeks from being fully vested from this part-time company. Now, they weren't paying me a lot of money. It was a part-time tech job. They really dumbed the title down, Technical Services Coordinator. I think that's so they didn't have to pay me a lot, TSC. So I decided after the way they've been treating me, I think it was a week before that, and I came back from one of their schools. She says, John, where were you? Well, I said, I was at such and such school. She's like, I know. She's like, but you know what time it is? I said, yes, It's 12:30. She says, and what time did you leave that school? Well, let me see. I left at 12 o'clock. I signed out at 12:02. I said goodbye to the security guard. I walked to my car, which took 5 minutes, got to the light, yada, 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 yada. It was about 12:20. She said, why weren't you here yet? I said, well, it was a very hot day. I didn't take lunch. And I was getting a little bit flustered. So I just pulled into 7-Eleven to get a bottle of water. Aha, we got you. Stealing government money. I said, I didn't take lunch. Doesn't matter if you didn't take lunch. That's your problem. So, aha, what do you mean? Well, you can't stop for a bottle of water on company time. Okay, it'll never happen again. I'm so sorry. Now this put a file in my head like, this is like strike one. Something else happened. Somebody was rude to me. That's strike two. Something else happened. They just thought they would just be rude to me. That's strike three. So I waited 2 days before Thanksgiving. I knocked on, I'll call it Mary's door. That's not her name. I said, Mary, you have a minute for me? She says, oh, sure, John. Have a seat. I said, Mary, I just want to come here and I want to say thank you. She says, oh, you're welcome. I want to say thank you for helping me become a better version of myself and helping you become a better version of yourself. She's like in another world. Because, Mary, today is my very last day.
Drop.
She looked at me and she's like, say that again? Today is my last day with your organization. She said, do you know what you're leaving on the table? Yes. You're leaving lifetime investment. You only have to be here another week and you have lifetime investment. I said, to some people that are simple-minded, that probably would matter. But the little bit of money you give me here, I'll make tons more than that. So I'd rather get out of this negative energy and start the life that I was meant to live. And she just didn't know what to say. She was totally crazy. And this is when I started realizing that if something's not going the way you want, you don't have to be nasty about it, but you have to let people know. I was at rehearsal the other night and we're doing this play. I do a play every year. Been doing a charity play for many years. Cool. And so I'm one of the lead actors. And so they had something they were going over and we were talking. Well, everyone else was talking and they were doing something. And then she told me to be quiet. So I was like, okay. But I'm like, what about the other people? She's like, John, really, you need to be quiet. So I said to her, I said, there's other people talking. She's like, I know, but I can hear you more. I said, well, they're just as close. I said, I don't have time for this petty nonsense. So I'm just going to tell you right now, do it again and I'm out. All right, then, where were we in the act? I think a lot of people think they can push you down. And I think you've got to be courteous. I even fired a client, Amber, I'm going to say it was probably about a year ago. It's a nice sized client. First time they called, they had a problem, something that another company did, we didn't do. And they cursed at me. And I said, well, I just want to make you aware of our policy here. We have a no discrimination policy, race, religion, segmentation, creed, color, that includes no disrespect, cursing, swearing, etc. Oh, yeah, fine. If you do it again, you'll be written up. And the third time we'll have to say goodbye. So that means you or anybody in the company. So the second time they call, they're having a problem. And
I love it.
The person on the phone is cursing me that I better call them back now if I know what's good for me. So I called them back. I helped them with the problem. I said, I just want to let you know that you are at strike two. You're going to get a formal write-up about this. If it happens again, we will say goodbye. So I get on the phone again, and the owner, this lady, and she says, we don't have time for the blah, blah, blah. She said all the letters you could imagine, from B to F, all in the book. And what did I hear? Oh, that wasn't me. I don't care. I said, anyone in your company. So we are done. You'll be getting a certified letter in the mail from us, and we'll be transitioning your service to a new company. Let us know who that will be. And they just went off. So they tried to go to their lawyer and tell them I was unfair. I said, great, we'll go to court and I'll just let them know how you harassed me and how you basically abused me. I'll let the judge know that. And they said, we don't want to bother with you. You're just nuts. So I think when people realize what they're doing is wrong, they try to placate it and they try to put you as the blame. But you're not the blame. Yeah. But they try to put you as the blame. So I think energy, when I tell people I work with people with positive energy, they think I'm nuts. I said, well, you don't have to like what I do. You don't have to even understand it. You don't have to understand how electricity works to use it in a positive way, like light your home, or a negative way that could harm someone. Sure. So you don't have to know how it works. It just does. You don't have to know how Newton's or physics laws work, but they do, or gravity. It works. And then I had this person and they were rude to me. And I said to the person, I said, I know because of your ego, you won't accept my advice. And that's perfectly okay, because I'm just a nobody. You have $10 million and own 50 buildings. God bless you. But I want to let you know something. Karma pays back. They said to me, are you threatening us with karma? No, karma is a thing. Karma's not a person. You're saying karma's going to come after us? No, karma is an energy.
Yeah.
And when I told them that, they didn't get it. And I said, I just want to let you know something. If you don't learn the lesson with me, which I know you're not going to, the universe is going to keep repeating this lesson in your face with stronger and more intense situations until you learn the lesson. So you can keep placating this. You can keep avoiding it. But eventually, you're going to find yourself needing to change your mind.
Now, this process that you've developed, I don't know if it's the process or steps of respect. When did you find this moment that the confidence in your career, was it always there like this? Or was there a tipping point or like a blooper reel outside of that story with the water and the government time? Was there anything that was like, okay.
There was another time. So I'm president of my local chamber. I made a 501c3. And this other mayor who's not anymore, again, we were very cordial. And my dad was in politics, so he was very cordial. And he was one of these people that would placate, your son's amazing. He's fantastic. And he would brown nose in front of to my parents. Oh, he's amazing. He's great. He's doing a lot of great stuff. But then when he sees what I'm doing, it's like, you're a bull in a china shop. I said, well, I don't have time for people that are going to placate me. So I'm just going to knock the whole shop down. And we're going to rebuild it. If you don't like it, you can just go somewhere else. And so he did things like try to call the cops. Meanwhile, I'm a first responder. Tried to help an Eagle Scout. Tried to have me removed from the property when I was trying to donate my time and prevent him from causing an explosion because they were going to dig and they were going to have a gas explosion. He told me that was none of my business. I should have just let the explosion happen. So what the tipping point was, he called me. I knew he wasn't on board with me. And he was afraid that he was going to lose fame as my chamber was growing. He was going to lose popularity. This mayor is a little different. He's like, John's got a great idea. He's very supportive. You should really go on. The other guy was like saying negative things about me. This guy says nice things about me. So he called one week, spoke to my secretary and says, well, when is John free? Mayor would like him to come in to discuss something. She comes to me, she says, John, when are you free? I said, for the mayor? I said, I don't have an availability until Friday at 4:30 or Monday at 8:30. Mr. Morley says he has availability coming up this Friday. I know today's Monday, but he's super busy. So this Friday he has availability at 4:30, or he has Monday coming up at 8:30 in the morning. That's the soonest? I'm sorry, that's the soonest. If you want, we can check back with you later, but it'll probably be another week. No, hold on a minute. She comes back. She said, well, we'll take the first appointment then Friday at 4:30. Now they go home at 4:30. Okay. But they're staying after. They want to meet with me. Hey, you're going to make a sacrifice. So I go in to see the guy and he says to me, John, he says, have a seat. I said, okay. John, when are you going to give up? I said, excuse me? When are you give up with this whole chamber nonsense thing? Like, when are you going to just give up with it? Because we don't need it. Oh, by the way, that thing you created for us about the shop local thing? I said, yeah. He says, it was a really brilliant idea. We're launching it and you're not. I was like, okay, I'm glad you like it. So when are you going to give up? I said, so I got to see it in his chair, all comfortable in the guest chair. Close my eyes. I said, what are you doing? I said, Mayor, I'm going to give up. So what are you doing? I don't want to lie to you, sir. I want to give you the absolute truth. When a little baby boy or a little baby girl tells their parents they don't want to lie, I wanted to give you first I told him I wanted to give you the exact moment, hour, minute, second, microsecond that I was going to give up. And then when I told him that, he was just like, oh, okay, because I don't want to lie to him. He's like, you don't speak, you let him speak. And he says to me, he said some words, is that? I said, well, may I ask you a question? Yeah? You have 2 kids, right? Boy and a girl. Boy just finished college, and I think daughter that's just going into college as a freshman, right? Yeah. Let me ask you another question. Do both of them walk today? Yeah. Okay. I have another question I'd like to ask you. When did either of them tell you that they didn't want to learn to walk anymore? Gives me all kinds of faces and facial gestures. I said, I don't talk for a few minutes. He goes, never. I said, sir, when I met you several years ago and had that privilege, I always knew that when I asked you this question precisely today, that you would give me the correct answer exactly the first time. And you're right. I'm going to give up, sir. Never. Now he was really choked. Takes his finger. He goes, John, you're blah, 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 arrogant. Get the blank out of my office. I said, sir, it'll be my pleasure, but I want to let you know something before I leave. I want to let you know that I never really needed your help. See, I was coming here as a cordiality, that I wanted you to work with me, but I never needed you. So we'll keep placating each other and playing this pretend game in public, because that's what you do as politicians. It's not my thing, until you get out of office, because someday you will get out of office. And when that happens, who knows? One of my friends might get in and the tables are going to turn. Have a great day. And I guess we'll see you at another event soon. He just didn't know what to do with me. It was funny when he calls the cops and says, what can we get John on? And he calls the attorney trying to get us. Now the attorney's a friend of mine. He's like, John, I was never against you, but I was only doing what I was told to. I know, writing toilet paper and sending it to me. It was all toilet paper, right? That would never held him in court. Oh, I know that. It was just a threat to you. I know. And I had pre-law and I decided not to lie for a living. And now he likes me, the attorney. So it was like they were sending me love notes every week. Cease and desist, cease and desist, cease and desist. And it was like he was just trying to abuse his power. Then he came to me and says, John, my mayor's such and such annual Oktoberfest is coming up. I said, okay. He said, are you going? I said, yes, I'm going. Great. And I was just wondering, what were you going to contribute? Did you want to buy a few kegs or did you want to sponsor a room or something? I said, Mayor, I said, I am very touched that you'd asked me. Unfortunately, this year, we're all tapped out already. Try me next January. We can budget for next year.
You didn't make the budget cuts.
No, I didn't make the cuts. So I think you've got to be polite about some things, but you're always going to get people that have this attitude. And one person said to me the other day, John, you don't want to be mad at people that don't have it in them to be generous. And I don't, but I want people to be respectful and I want people to understand. I had a thing I called Easy Pass the other day. And I wasn't yelling at them, but I was saying, look, I am so tired of your automated systems sending me notices, threatening me when it was your system. I said, let's talk about respect. She was not expecting this. So I said, I want an apology. She said, I can't do anything about that. She said, but I can message the higher ups. I said, and you and I know they're never going to get back to me. By the way, our call is being monitored, recorded for quality assurance purposes. And in the state of New Jersey, I do not have to notify you of that because it's a one-person record state. As long as one person on the call knows the call is being recorded, I don't have to notify you.
Interesting.
Oh, okay. Well, is there anything else I can do for you today? So, no, there isn't. Well, have yourself a great rest of your evening. I just don't like when people hide behind technology, and I love technology, to placate something.
Yeah.
Or how people would hide behind voicemail and options and things. So people tell them, didn't you know something that I do, which most people don't do? I actually answer the phone. And I pick up my phone.
Yeah.
And they're like, you answered. I'm like, I did. And I said, that's what business people do. That's what entrepreneurs do. That's serial entrepreneurs do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had somebody the other day, I'll talk about respect. And that was a guy, he wanted to meet with me. He was referred from somebody I knew. He used this person's name, so I trusted him. We did 30 minutes, 15 minutes for me, 15 minutes for him. He didn't want to take his 15 minutes. He says, John, I need more time than 15 minutes. Okay. I figured 30 minutes. He said, well, I need an hour. He's like, I don't really want to get into what I do. He says, I'll give a presentation. So I said, this isn't a sales presentation, right? It's just informing me of what you do. And then if I know someone, I'll tell them. But I'll be honest, I'm not in any condition to buy anything right now. Our budgets are already set. So he says to me, no, just to show you what's going to say. And I have a hard stop at 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the meeting was set. I warned him on email and on LinkedIn. Just want to let you know the purpose of our call. Well, he shows the morning of, I think it was 8 o'clock. I get there 5 to 8. And there's two other people in the room, like Jason and I said, who are you? I said, I think you're in the wrong room. Are you John? I said, yes, I am. Oh, yeah, Fred will be along in a minute. And you are? I'm vice president of sales and I'm vice president of customer service. Okay, guys. So let me just tell you something. This was supposed to be a meeting between me and Fred. I did not give him permission to bring anyone else on this call, nor did he ask me. The fact that you are here right now has just broken our trust, the little bit that we had. So I'm sorry to do this to you, gentlemen, but I am out. Not only am I out, you can let him know that I am breaking our connection on LinkedIn, and I'm going to make sure our party knows what he did to me, and he will never go anywhere again with him. Have a great day, gentlemen.
Buy back some
People abuse
time.
people. What's that?
Buy back your time by controlling the situation and advocating for yourself. Yep. And I feel like that's a constant underlying statement here is having kindness, but then still respecting yourself too. And then having that reciprocating.
Absolutely. Don't take my kindness for weakness, because if you do, you will be sorry. But the fact that they had these people ambushing me, it only happened one at a time. But I had this hunch in my mind when I got there, said something's going to happen.
And that's why you kept giving them parameters. You're like, here, we have this appointment.
We have this condition. It's just going to be you and I. This is what it's going to be. You can give a presentation. It's fine. You're not going to start asking me to buy anything from you. It's going to be a very straightforward presentation explaining your services, because you told me yourself you can't share what you do. You have to make it a formal presentation. So, okay.
Yeah.
Which was more of an excuse, to be honest with you. But I let him down the path. But I never would have done that if it wasn't for this guy. And when I talked to the guy just the other day, I said, hey, Jim, I just want to let you know what Fred did. He says, oh, I never even told him that he could use my name. We're not even friends. He just used my name because we had a call about 6 months ago. Oh, so you don't even know him? I know of him. He says, but I never told him that he could call you. He says, he must have just looked on the member list and just saw my name and said, that I said to call you. So I think, you can be dishonest to a point, and if you do it, you might not get caught right away, but you're going to get caught eventually. It's kind of like I tell people, don't lie. Because even though we have great memories, you're not going to remember every possible combination you told someone.
Combination, exactly. Of your dishonesty. You will get caught at some point.
When somebody says to me, and I tell them the story, and they get too intricate with the story, can you share that with me again? Which part?
Game of operator.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
And they don't tell the ask it. So what are you doing? I said, I'm just taking some notes. So you said it was a red car? Yeah. Okay. And then you went to the supermarket? Yeah. And then you came home.
What time was that? 5 years ago.
Yeah. But then the first time you told me it was a blue car. What was a blue, red car? I don't remember. You don't remember. And then what happened after that? Well, then I went to the store. Well, which store did you go to? You said you went to the food store? I don't know. I think I went to the record store. Okay. I mean, the story is not mashing.
Yeah.
And so when people give you too much information, they're trying to make you believe something. Mm-hmm. When we tell a genuine story, we don't get into everything. We could tell the color of the scarf. Oh my gosh, the scarf was here. And they give you too many details. It's it's not right.
Yeah. Well, you are so much fun, John C. Morley. How do people follow you and find more of you?
So to follow me is easy. You can just go to Believe, BELIEVE, achieve.com, believemeachieve.com. And when you get to that, that'll be my link tree. There's lots of great things on there, from my daily podcast, which sometimes I have guests on. And what I tell people on all my shows, I promise, I don't give a time on my shows, but I promise to get the show out before I go to bed.
Okay.
There was one time I was going to Florida. It was 1:30 in the morning. I got off the plane. My mom said, you're going to go to bed? I said, not really. I said, I got a show. I got to get out at 1:45. Hey guys, it's John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. I just landed here in beautiful Florida. It is 1:45 in the morning, but you're first. So let's talk about our topic, shall we? I'll keep it short tonight because I got to catch some D's, and then you'll catch me tomorrow night. So that's what I do. I also have John C. Morley Science Fridays with John C. Morley Serial Entrepreneur, which is a thing I have, JCM Academy Coaching. But I just love to help people learn about things and kind of basically realize that if we creatively play with our life, we'll never work. And manifestation should not be work. It should be a dance with the universe. And when you dance, you creatively play. And if you don't get the step right, well, we'll just do it again. And next time we'll get it right. But it's about envisioning. And the last thing I want to share with you is this, and that is, there are wonderful things that we can see and hear and smell and taste, but they're nowhere near as equivalent as only things that can be felt with our heart. And thus, when you manifest, you have to feel it first. You'll manifest it second. Become what you want to be, because you're already that.
I don't even know how to say anything else to wrap this up today. Thank you so much for that. That was really beautiful.
Thank you. It was a pleasure coming on your show. Happy to come again. I know we had a little bit of a challenge of getting scheduled, but I'm glad that our schedules finally aligned with the stars and the planets.
We were manifesting the right time. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Pathways. For more information about the podcast, books, articles, the blog, and so much more, please visit my website at amberstitt.com. And remember, let's take action today. Thank you for listening.